Hello, I'm the Pink Phantom, and this is my podcast. Join me as I delve into the world of games and gaming, and especially old school RPGs. Together, let's voyage into the astral realm and check out my Phantom Thoughts. In the most recent edition of Dice Exploder, as of this podcast, that was the edition put out on episode put out on 7/23/24. The host, Sam Dunwald, and his guest, Tristan Zimmerman, were talking about the Adventuring Day in 5th edition D&D and how it's supposed to be 8 encounters between long rests, which is when the party essentially gets a full reset. It gets the resources of the party, the spell slots, the class features, magic items are reset and renewed for another day. They also talked about other systems that had similar type mechanics, where you would have to have so many encounters, and then you got back all of your resources. And that got me to thinking about skills in D&D. Now, skills in D&D I think they've always been kind of the problem child. The original D&D and AD&D and the BX, for the most part, they didn't have a lot of defined skills other than thief skills for the editions that had those. And a lot of people resorted to doing, in role players, resulted to doing ability score checks. That's become a widely used mechanic to do something that would be skill-like. You try to roll under your ability score on a D20 or 3D6, depending on what a particular DM or group is doing. And it's evolved through the years to using non-weapon proficiencies in AD&D and to skills or tool sets or proficiencies or things of that nature through the varying editions. And so it's tried to provide a way to institute a skill check. And for the most part, I don't think any of the official attempts have really landed. You always, whenever I hear them mentioned, I tend to hear them mentioned in a way that they are found lacking by whoever's talking about them. So I don't think they've ever been very popular. And the way this ties into the Adventuring Day was the Adventuring Day concept, which Sam and Tristan both admitted is not something that many 5e groups seem to play with. The idea that you're going to have 8 different encounters before you end up having a long rest. But the way that ties in is everything in that Adventuring Day concept is tied into limited number uses of whatever the resource is, whether it's with magic or with magic items, with spells, with what your class can do. All those things are renewed at dawn or after a long rest so that they run out. And that's been a part of D&D from the beginning. The idea of resource management or inventory management, where what you carry with you diminishes over time as you adventure, and eventually that forces you to do something to renew those resources. In the older versions, those typically tended to be things like, it was a more an inventory thing, I guess, as much as anything else. Yes, you had spell slots, but also you had things like torches and rations and ammunition for your long-range weapons that you had to keep track of. And those things would run out, not just daily, but over the course of time. And eventually you'd be forced to essentially end your expedition so you could go back to town and get more. But this logistical bent was always there. This idea that going on adventure wears you down, and at some point there has to be a mechanic to bring that back in terms of personal resources, and of course in terms of overall party resources. There would have to be, literally you'd have to end the adventure or in that portion of the adventure and go back and resupply. And even hit points fall into this category, because there's only so many times you can go into a battle, even if you're a fighter with D10 hit points per level. There's only so many fights you can have until you run out of healing, you run out of healing potions, you run out of healing spells, and you're low on hit points. And so you have to get yourself somewhere safe for a period of time to get back. And in older school games, that took even longer because you didn't automatically renew after a long rest. So tying that back into the skill idea and the way skills always seem to be unsatisfactory in D&D, I wonder if the reason they feel unsatisfactory is that having something a character can always do and essentially at full strength feels un-D&D. That the wear and tear of an expedition is a basic part of D&D, and to always have a skill that works the same way on hour one of day one of an adventure just doesn't quite feel right. Should there be a penalty applied as you continue to adventure, as you continue to exert yourself, as you continue to essentially be out in the wilderness instead of having a comfortable place to get a good night's rest? Should those things diminish your skills? Would that make skills and the mechanics inform the mechanics for utilizing skills in D&D, and number two, would that make them feel like a more intrinsic part of D&D, so that you could come up with a system that seems satisfactory within the realm of D&D to have a skill system? So that's sort of my little thought for the week. Thank you to Sam over at Dice Exploder for the episode, for being so thought-provoking, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And now, more from my solo AD&D RPG campaign, Tales of the Dragon Slayers. We're now on day 116, following the humanoids around till they find their lairs. The Oinking Horde orcs have united with the Thunder Club ogres and have gotten back to the Oinking Horde's lair. The Gnawing Jaws gnolls have reunited with their lair in the ruins of a city that is deep in a depression. And the bugbears have been captured by a hive of aspis. So that only leaves the orc leaders, who had moved in a different direction, left the battle earlier, and moved in a different direction from the Oinking Horde, the rest of the Oinking Horde, and the trolls and the Iron Basher hobgoblins, who are actually in the same hex but haven't run across each other. So we're going to start with the orc leaders, because they know where now that I know where the orc homeland is, I know that they know. And so there are two potential paths they could take, one that starts off to the west and one that starts off to the northwest. So I'm just going to be rolling to see which path they take. On a 1 to 3, they're going to go west. On a 4 to 6, they will be going northwest. And with a 4, they're going to go northwest. The terrain they're passing through is already established as hills, but we have not seen if there are any settlements there. The second hex, the one they'll be stopping in, does have a road in it, so if they do have an encounter there, they could end up encountering a patrol of some sort. Let's break out the percentile dice and see if there's any inhabitation in these hexes. It has to be 16% or less. 15% in the first hex, so there is some sort of inhabitation in that one, and the second hex will be 0-1%, so both are inhabited. The 15% indicates ruins, so we'll have to roll again to see what that is, and a 33% gives us a city, so a ruined city. And that 0-1 result in the next hex indicated it is a single dwelling that they run across, or that is the inhabitation they have. We'll have to roll to see if they have any kind of encounters. So rolling for encounters, in the hills we roll for 3. We roll for pre-dawn. It's a 2, that's nothing. Noon, that's a 7, that's nothing. And then finally, at night, a 9. So they do not have any encounters. Moving on to the trolls. See which direction they move in. And on a 3, they're going to move to the east. The first section they have is hills, which is a section that's been explored just recently. But the next hex is a blank hex, so we're going to roll to see what's there. We're rolling a d20, and it's a 19. So coming from hills, that is a pond. So it's a pond in the middle of some hills. So let's roll to see if they have any encounters today. Pre-dawn, the roll of 1, so that's going to be an encounter. Noon, that's a 3, that's going to be an encounter. And at night, that's going to be a 1, that's going to be an encounter. Now, the interesting thing about these 2 hexes is they are adjacent to the hex where the gnolls ran into the werewolves. So there's the potential for them to be there. Also, that second hex, we need to know, is there any inhabitation there? Because that could also be part of the random encounter. And with a 21, there is no inhabitation in that second hex. So we have to roll for the encounters. The chance of running across a werewolf in its lair is 25%. So we're just going to roll for 25% and see if the lair of these werewolves is in one of these hexes. So the early encounter, which would be in 1 hex, 27, no. And then the other pond hex, 50%, no. Though they still could come up on the random encounter table. So let's roll for that random encounter. And as per usual, we will consult the Dungeon Master's Guide random table as well as the Monster Manual 2 table and either see one which makes more sense, which is more interesting, or we'll just roll for it, which I think we've done so far. I don't know if I end up explaining this every time, but the Dungeon Master encounter table is D percentile. The Monster Manual is 2d10s, so I can use the same roll for both. So here we go. We get a 34%, which on the Dungeon Master table would be a herd animal of some sort. And on the Monster Manual 2, that would be a 7, which would be a giant Veerbeeg. What is a giant Veerbeeg? Okay, giant, Veerbeeg. So it's a giant. It's a form of giant. It's found in the Monster Manual 2. Veerbeeg, or human behemoths, are a race of human giants inhabiting the same areas as hill giants and ogres. An encounter with a Veerbeeg is 30% likely to be in conjunction with hill giants or ogres, with 1 to 6 wandering monsters and 30% in the lair for a total of 5 to 30 Veerbeeg will be found, and 20% with 1 to plus 2 others. Okay, those percentages were not making any sense, but now I see what the problem is. Okay, so it says an encounter with Veerbeeg is 30% likely to be in conjunction with hill giants or ogres, 50% with 1 to 6 wandering monsters, 30% in the lair where there are a total of 5 to 30 Veerbeeg, and 20% with 1 to 2 plus others. So looking up at the stat block, it says number appearing 1 to 2, 1 to 6, or 5 to 30. So the 50%, 30%, and 20% are for that, and then just the 30% of hill giants or ogres applies to. I think it applies to everything. So first, we'll start to see if they're in their lair, or if it's with 1 to 2, or if it's the 1 to 6. So 50%, 30%, and 20%. So here we go, and we have 60%. So that's more than the 50%. So that'll put them in the lair with a total of 5 to 30 Veerbeeg. So that would be 5d6. So let's see. We got 1. That's 2. 4. That's 6. 1. That's 7. And 3. That's 10. So 10 Veerbeeg. So write that down. 10 Veerbeeg. And now we need to see if they've got either hill giants or ogres possibility here. 11%, so it will be hill giants or ogres. 40% hill giants, 60% ogres. And they rolled a 5%, so it's hill giants. It doesn't say how many hill giants, so I guess we'll roll on the hill giants entry to see how many in a moment. In a layer of Veerbig, which is what we have, there will always be a leader with 1800 strength. All the other Veerbig, they have ranging anywhere from 1851 to 1800 strength. You roll for that. So the leader will have 1800 strength and no fewer than 40 hit points. There will be 2 females for the leader and 1 for each additional male. Young Veerbig are about 50% of the total population over 8. So there's only 10 of them. So it's a population over 9, excuse me. So let's roll 50% to see if that extra one is a young or not. So under 50%, it's young. And it's 54%, so it's not. So these are all adults. And let's see, so 10 total. 1 is the leader, 2 are the females for the leader. So that gets us down to 7. So it'll be 50-50 the rest of the way, and then there will be 1. So we're going to say, will the odd one out be a female or a male? Under 50 male, over 50 female. 82 is a female. So there will be a total of 6 females and 4 males, with one of them being the leader. All Veerbig encountered are likely 2% per Veerbig to have with them a shaman of either sex. So let's roll under 20. If it's 20% or under, there's a shaman. 55, no shaman. And in a lair, it will include 2 to 8 wolves or 1 to 4 wargs, 75% and 25% chance. So wolves or wargs, 20% wolves. And roll d4 twice, 3 and 2, 5 wolves. So 10 Veerbigs, 5 wolves, and an unknown number of hill giants. So scrolling down to hill giants, the number appearing is 1 to 10. And, well, that didn't land straight. 6 hill giants. Okay, that's a pretty formidable group of creatures there. Because Veerbig are intelligent, they will command any hill giants or ogres with whom they dwell. Also, if these giants have them, they will wear protective materials to improve their armor class, i.e. hides and furs. Do hill giants wear hides and furs? They typically dress in rough hides or skins, so yes. So the Veerbig's armor class is 4 or better. So let's see. Let's say we'll roll a d6 on a 1 through 3. No, let's roll a d8. We haven't used a d8 in a while. So on a 1 or 2, they're going to stay at armor class 4. On a 3 through 5, they'll go up to 3. On a 6 or 7, they'll go up to 2. And on an 8, they'll go up to 1. So they rolled, okay, that didn't land straight either. They rolled a 4, so they're going to be armor class 3. So let's go to a reaction roll here. So first let's do the reaction of the trolls to the Veerbig. 65% uncertain but 55% prone toward positive. And the Veerbig toward the trolls, a 10% hostile immediate action. So, okay. So let's see if the trolls were in their 55% positive reaction or if they were negative. And they rolled an 88, so that's a negative reaction. So both chances will have a chance for surprise here. So the trolls, are they surprised? With a 4, they are not. The Veerbigs, are they surprised? With a 6, they are not. So no surprise. So the Veerbigs obviously recognize the trolls for what they are and want nothing to do with them. Veerbigs are neutral evil. Trolls are chaotic evil. But then hill giants are also chaotic evil. So I guess it's not that big a difference. Reaction check says they're hostile and take immediate action, but it doesn't say immediate attack, which is the next step if they had rolled a little lower. So I think they may just try to scare the trolls off, call up some hill giants, and let's see what kind of reaction we have when they pop up here. Let's dig into the weeds a little bit on the morale situation. Trolls are 6+6 hit dice creatures. Hill giants are 8 plus 1 to 2, and the Veerbigs are 5 plus 5. So the trolls come across their lair. The Veerbigs, they should have some people stationed around. How many of the 10? Well, let's see. The females will probably be inside. So how many? And the leader will be inside. So probably just 1 or 2 of the others would be outside. And then there'd probably be 2 or 3 of the hill giants with them. So let's see. 1d6, 1 to 3, it's 1 Veerbig, and 1 to 2, it's 1 Veerbig. 3 to 4, it's 2 Veerbigs, and 5 to 6, for some reason, all 3 of the adult males are out there. That's 1. So there's 1 Veerbig out there, and then we'll do the same thing with the hill giants. Let's say it's 1 to 4 hill giants. We'll roll a d4 here. 2. So there's 2 hill giants and a Veerbig out there. So we have 3 trolls, 6 plus 6 hit dice. So base 50% morale for them, and then plus 25% for those additional 5 hit dice over 1. That bumps up to 75, and then plus their plus 6 adds 6 to that. So 81% base morale. So then they get a bonus of 2% per hit die of friends. And we're rounding the pluses up. So that'd be 7 times 3 is 21 times 2 is 42, which will bring their morale up to 123%. But now it's minus 1% for each level or hit die of enemy. So we have the Veerbigs, which will count as 6. The 1 Veerbig will count as 6, and the 2 hill giants will count as 9. That'll be a total of 18 for the hill giants, plus 6 is 24. So we subtract the 24, so that brings the trolls to a 99%. So are there any other factors that would factor in? So let's say the immediate action they have is they summon their fellows out of their lair. I forgot about the wolves. There's 5 wolf guards, so they should all be on guard. So wolves are 2 plus 2 hit dice. So that's 3 for our calculation purposes. So that's going to be another 15 down. So that'll drop the trolls down to 84% morale. So the trolls are going to approach with, essentially ill intent because they had the negative reaction as well. Let's see what the encounter distance is and see if they can cover the distance before help arrives. So we're still in the hills. We're still in these hills we've covered are forested. So it's going to be 64 minus 1 per die. So here we go. So 2, 3, 4. I'm adding these are the totals and not the numbers. And then we drop the die on the floor. So we roll that one again. So that's another 3. So that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, minus 6. So they're only 5 inches away. And a troll can move 12. So help is not going to arrive. And so unless the troll's nerve breaks as they approach and they see what's in front of them, we're going to roll initiative. So 84% the trolls are 84%, and the roll is 78%. So they pass the morale check, and we roll initiative. So the trolls, they get a 3. The Veerbig and helpers get a 2. So the trolls are going to go first. So let's roll some hit points. I roll for each encounter, even though I know that we've established these trolls before it's having some hit points. I'm going to roll again. So 6 hit die plus 6. So we got 5 plus 6 is 11. Plus 3 is 14. Plus 7 is 21. Plus 8 is 29. Plus 7 is 36, plus 6 is 42. So 42 hit points for the trolls. And then for the Veerbig, they are 5 plus 5 hit dice. So 7 plus 6 is 13, plus 5 is 18, plus 8 is 26, plus 6 is 32, so 32 hit points. And then, well, plus 5, 37. And the Hill Giants are 8 plus 1, 8 to 1 plus 2. So let's roll for the plus first. I'm going to roll D4. Roll to 4, so it's going to be plus 2. So 8 hit dice. 3 plus 6 is 9. Plus 1 is 10. Plus 7 is 17. Plus 2 is 19. Plus 5 is 24. Plus 4 is 28. Plus 2 is 30. Plus that 2 is 32. And then the wolves are 2 plus 2 hit dice creatures. So 3 plus 1 is 4, 6. So each of the 5 wolves will have 6 hit points. Now for the Veerbig, I need to determine his strength. There's a table to roll on. 1 to 2 will be 18, 51 to 75 range. 3 to 6 will be 18, 76 to 90 range. 7 to 9 will be 18, 91 to 99 range. And 10 will be 1800. So he has 7. That's going to be 18, 91 to 99. So we'll roll a d10 again to see how many we had to 90. We're going to add 9 to that 90. So 18, 99 strength. So now we need to look up what that means in the player's handbook. All right, so there's a chance that the treasure that the Veerbig or the Hill Giants have could have something they could use in it. I suppose there's a small chance for the trolls as well, but they're not really tool users. They tend to just use their natural attacks. But I think if there's a chance for some kind of magical weapon, one of the Veerbigs might use it, particularly the leader. So I'm gonna roll that up. I'll do that kind of off camera, so to speak, and we'll pick up with this battle at the beginning of the next time. But let's do the wanderings of the Iron Bashers hobgoblins before we get too deep into anything else. And I also need to figure out what that other encounter is going to be if the trolls survive this one. So we'll put that on the notch for next time as well. But let's check in with those hobgoblins. So they actually started out from the same place as the trolls, and actually that's another good reason, because if they go in the same direction, they could wind up in this battle as well. So or with a battle later on. So let's go with the first to see which direction they go to. So they're going to go with a rolling of 2. They are actually going to go northeast, which is going to take them down into the plains. So taking them away from here. Both the hexes they're going to be passing into we've already been through. But one of them is where the Keystone town that's at the bottom of the hills are. So if they have an encounter early on, it could be with some sort of patrol or something out of there. So let's see if we don't have to roll for inhabitation. We don't have to roll for terrain. So let's roll for encounters. So morning encounter, 10. Noon encounter, 8. Night encounter, 9. So they don't have any encounters. So we're going to close out there, and we will pick up. We seem to pick up with a battle every time now. We're going to pick up with the battle between the trolls and the Veerbig. And if the trolls somehow get through that, they will move on, and they will have another battle or another encounter of some sort in the next hex. So more exciting times ahead. Thank you for listening. The opening theme of this podcast was Strength of the Titans, and the closing music is Late Night Radio, both from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. If you have any thoughts or feedback, you can get in touch with me by leaving me a voice message on my Google Voice number 864-209-1441. That's 864-209-1441. Or through SpeakPipe at www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. That's www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. Or you can send me a message or an audio file on Discord, where I can be found the Pink Phantom, or through email, phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. That's phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. I don't have to play or read your feedback on the podcast if that is not your preference. Just let me know.